Hi, I'm Lajos, and I'm leading the software development at Welt and N24. And if you like what you're hearing, then you can just follow us on Twitter, so at WeltDev, or follow me on Twitter, Lajos Lange. And today I will tell you the story how we transformed ourselves very much from a traditional and classical print publishing house with a single newspaper towards what I call a tech publisher. So not anymore just a pure print publishing house, also becoming a tech company with a multimedia quality brand. And nowadays we are reaching about 2 million readers every month on our different kind of print products, and over 20 million unique users on our different kind of digital channels. And relatively new in our product portfolio, also the TV broadcast station N24, with more than 5 million viewers every month. So how did we get there? I started actually in 2011 at Axel Springer. And back in the days, I started in a with a very big waterfall-driven multi-million euro project, very painful project actually. And back in the days, we created a new consolidated CMS infrastructure for the online and print production for Die Welt. And this was the time when we started with the online-first approach. This means that our editors were not anymore focused only on the print production. They were focused on creating a story and then delivering it first for online and then for different kind of other channels. So this was the first time that we were able, due to technology, to create an environment where they really live this online-first approach. And then at the end of 2013, that was a big milestone for us, we acquired the TV broadcast station N24, and we had to think, okay, how can we now integrate a TV broadcast station into our environment? And it took us almost a year to find out how these two companies want to work together. And by the mid of 2015, we then finally decided to merge the two brands of Die Welt and N24 to one strong multimedia brand. And at this moment, it was also very clear that we had to recreate our whole product portfolio. And we also took this project as a chance to modernize our whole IT department from a technological as well as from a cultural perspective. And Back to the Future, at the 18th of January 2018, we will then also rebrand the TV broadcast station N24 to Welt, and then this transformation process is done. But the interesting part, of course, is what happened now between 2015 and 2018. So you can imagine that bringing two companies together and merging these kind of products was a big challenge. And also from a technological perspective, there were a lot of uncertainties that we had to overcome. And that's why we started first with a proof of concept. And we re-implemented our tablet app, the Welt Edition. It's our most successful subscription product. And this we launched in September 2015. In January, we redesigned then our whole print product portfolio. And then it took us almost a year to recreate the rest of our digital product portfolio. And the 12th of September, we called it our Christmas Day, because we launched a whole series of different kind of products, starting in the morning when we relaunched the TV redesign. It was a very big project in itself. And then also Welt.de. This was our major project, because it was not only a rebrush, we really re-implemented everything from scratch. So we went into the cloud, so on AWS, due to that, we rebuilt the whole system infrastructure, we recreated the whole backend infrastructure, and also the whole front-end stack we rebuilt. And due to the rebuild of the front end, we also reached our goal to become Germany's fastest news portal. And then in December, we also relaunched the news app, and we shut down N24, all the products from N24, and shifted the traffic then finally to Welt. And one thing I also wanted to share with you is a new brand and product campaign that we launched at that day, Check die Welt, Check the World. So just giving you some impressions about our new brand. So, for instance, this very powerful picture from a refugee, a Syrian father coming from Syria, dragging his daughter over the German border. It's a very, very emotional and strong picture. And at the same time, with all these long forms now coming from TV, we also have a lot of documentations, and due to that, we can be also very entertaining. And another competency that we got from the TV broadcast area was that we got a lot of expertise in the video production. So, and live coverage as well. So you could see that at the G20 in Hamburg, you could see that at the last German election, and also at the Trump election. And due to this live coverage, we can be nowadays also very shocking. Yeah, so enjoy this picture for a second. I can tell you that this project was the most challenging project I ever experienced, because there are so many different kind of departments, so many different kind of stakeholders that are involved, and everybody has different kind of expectations and requirements. And bringing all this together, bring everything in balance was very painful. But when you take a look on the numbers, it was also worth it. So this is the traffic growth over the last 5 to 6 years. So you could see this slight uplift after we went to the online first approach, but it was very important also for our journalists to live this online first approach, and in order to get into this digital world. This was very important from a cultural perspective. And then we had a big uplift when we invested more into our mobile website and into social. And then with the merger of Welt and N24, we had a very good uplift of about 30% in traffic. So it was, in our opinion, very, very successful. So I want to give you now an overview, how did we transform ourselves more and more into this digital world. So when I started at Axel Springer, I recognized that we very much lived in a top-down management mentality. And yeah, the IT, so the management often called the IT the necessary evil, and that was the way how they treated us. Yeah, so don't ask stupid questions, just fulfill my requirements, whatever it cost. And this was very, very hard to deal, because you can imagine with all these kind of compromises, your complexity is rising, and at a certain point in time, your velocity is always going down due to the higher complexity, and then at the end, everybody is complaining, yeah, IT is shit, right? So I think a lot of companies run into this threat. So when we look how we started, we only were running waterfall-driven projects. We had a very weak development team. We had no internal developers, about 90% external employees. And also in our big online first project, we had a churn rate of about 100%. And this means we exchanged the whole development team once, what was kind of horrible for this project. At the same time, we had no quality assurance, and I mean we had no automated tests. And we had also no manual quality assurance, what is kind of ridiculous for a software project. And at the same time, we had a very low degree when it comes to process automation. So back in the days, we had only rollouts once a month. And all this very much led us to, as a result of our project, and this was a very, very bad code base, a monolithic, we call it our little monolith. It's about 50 man-years old. It's about 500,000 lines of code big, so a rather big software project, and it's a child of about 50 to 60 different kind of developers. And all this in total feels very, very much like operating or maintaining these old rockets. So nobody likes to fly with it. Everybody is complaining about it, and at least nobody was proud of the work he was doing. And so we were often sitting together and thought, what could we change now? And the first thing what we did was we convinced our management that we need our internal IT team, and we started then with a big IT insourcing project, what was great, and we are also convinced that it was the right decision. At the same time, it was kind of difficult because we exchanged the team a second time, and for those kind of people, it was very hard to get into these complex infrastructure and code structure. Of course, we had, when we started also with the Welt and N24 merger, we had a lot of goals, and these are the goals that we accomplished. So the business, so the bottom goals here are goals from the business. They were always complaining about time and quantity to market. And on the other hand, we had to reduce our operational cost. And the technological goals that supports now these business goals were an invest in flexible change management. So nowadays, very, very well known under the term continuous delivery. And a fundament for flexible change management or for continuous delivery is, of course, a very high quality software standard. So a good unit test coverage and so on. And the other point is the technological and operational autonomy. Nowadays also very well known under the term DevOps. And all of these things we achieved, so we living today continuous delivery with a DevOps model. The teams are very free in choosing different kind of technologies. Yeah, it's always up to the team to decide what kind of technologies they want to use, but it's always clear that they also have to maintain it. And this is for us, it's a self-healing system, it works for us. And we also don't have these high or these big governance structures or something. Yeah? The teams are really free in the way they're choosing technologies. All right, so in all of these goals, they pointed on one vision that we had, and this was to create a service, an innovative service architecture. So we defined somehow a mission statement for our IT department, and we said we want to create a cloud-based service platform that supports the rapid development process. So we looked up into the sky, and of course there were a lot of clouds back in the days, so it was at the beginning of 2015, and we evaluated all these kind of different cloud systems. And we are nowadays very, very happy that we took that we also were able to convince our IT management to move to AWS, because before there was an NSA scandal and the people were very suspicious about the cloud. And then we first had to move into a private cloud. It was very difficult for us. And at the end, we had hard arguments, but we managed to move to AWS. And so what I also told you, we wanted to create a service platform. So also AWS helped us a lot to create this lean service architecture and infrastructure. And on the other hand, it also we wanted to speed up the whole development process. And this is a very crucial part where a cloud can help you a lot, in my opinion. So you can get everything on demand. Yeah. So back in the days when we developed stuff, it took us almost weeks to set up infrastructure, sometimes also months, because we had to drill deep into the different kind of new components and technologies. Nowadays, we created a mantra. We're always saying at our department, make it run, make it fast, make it cheap. So this means we always start with a prototype. Yeah? So from a business perspective, as well as from a technological perspective, we try to play around with the different kind of technologies, try to find out, is it the right technology we like, and getting more knowledge about. And if we like it, we keep it, and then we go to the next phase, make it run, make it fast. So make it performant, that it will also be able to serve millions of customers. And at the last point, we run into the make it cheap phase, so optimizing everything for cost. And another thing that the cloud supports us is the ability to create really agile cultures. Yeah, so I believe that the cloud is offering you a lot of flexibility, and this flexibility also enables you to create these agile mindsets. And so coming more now to the, I'm now striving more as a cultural and organizational perspective what we changed, right? So here you can see how we transformed ourselves more and more towards agility. And so what I call Agile 1.0 is a typical scenario, right? So you start first with waterfall, or you are coming from the waterfall environment, and then you start with Scrum. Then later on you get some external coaching, what I highly recommend to everybody, because sometimes you think you're agile, but at the end you're not. And these agile coaches can help you a lot with this. And then after some time, then when you're used to it, then you're starting with Kanban, right? But nowadays, our teams, they have these agile mindsets, they have the agile knowledge, so they know how the process works. And so we came up with the idea that each team don't have anymore a dedicated Scrum Master. We don't need it actually anymore. Yeah? So each of our teams, they are responsible for their process, they're using different kind of methodologies, and they're shaping the process that it works for them. And so we call it the mixed agile arts approach. And the last Scrum Master that we still have, this guy we developed towards a personal and system coach, because the problems that I have nowadays are more conflicts between people or between teams. And this guy is really looking for these conflicts, and then we together try to solve those. And this is what I call Agility 2.0. So what is now Agility 3.0? So I recognized after some time that we are in a very good shape when it comes to agility, but our whole environment around us was not very agile. And then you always have some interference. There are some managers that come by and saying, I need this feature and it should look like this, and you don't tell me what to do. I know best what the user needs. Things like that. And that's why we started to, we talked to our top management, and we introduced an OKR, so objectives and key results. Who's actually familiar with OKR? Nobody? Nobody? Okay, interesting. So objectives and key results is a methodology that was invented by Intel, and it became very popular due to Google. So there's a very good book, Google Work Rules, and they are describing how they introduce the process in their organization. So the main idea is that once a quarter, the management is defining 5 different goals, and each of these goals have 5 KPIs, and these KPIs showing everybody in the company how to measure the success. And the main idea behind is that the management is nowadays only focused on what they want to achieve, but not telling the operational level how to do things. Yeah? So the teams are very free in defining how to solve these goals. Yeah? And they're creating their own implementation, and we give them advice, we sometimes challenge their solution, but we don't dictate any kind of solutions anymore. And this pushed us on a new level. I wouldn't say that we are at the end, but as we started with Scrum, it's the next evolution for us. All right, so organizational structure. This was the old organizational structure on our side. So we had a lot of silos, and different kind of departments just pushed the requirements over the fence. So to the product management, they created business analysis. They pushed it over to the product development. The product owners prioritized it. They together with UI UX, they creating concepts and designs. They pushed it over to the developers, and we implemented it, pushed it back the chain. And yes, everybody knows it. Everybody hated the solution. So what we did is we killed all of those silos. And at the end, we nowadays living in these heterogeneous team structures. So our teams always consist of a product owner, UI UX designers, software developers, and software developers means system engineer, front end and back end. And also, dependent on the team, we have also an editorial owner or a business partner, so somebody from the sales or marketing department within the team. And it's so it sounds simple, but it's so important to do that because it speeds up the whole development process, because often it's not a point of implementation, right? So it's more like, do we go in this direction or this direction? And then you need an answer, and then the guy from the editorial office is missing, then you write him an email or you set up a meeting, and this takes time, and then you're just idling, right? And this is what we achieved, or that we overcome, and we very much speed up our development process to this. Decision processes. So our decision process is more or less user-centric, lean, and data-driven. So what do we mean by that? The main idea is, or the fact is that we still get a lot of ideas from managers and also from the top management, but also from our teams, of course, and from our users. And we always try to focus on the user in a user-centric way in order to prioritize it when it comes to prioritization. And then we never implemented it fully blown or in a rock-solid way. We always start again with these prototypings. And so sometimes it's just a fake door test or something, right? Or a design. And then we have a usability lab, and we're inviting users to play around with it, asking for feedback, and trying to validate if this idea is really valuable enough to implement it. And then we also do a lot of A/B testing. About 90% of our features that we're rolling out are tested via A/B testing. And due to these data that we gain to that, we then push it over. If we verified on the base of these data, when we verified that this feature is valuable, then we push it into a production sprint, and there we push a lot of emphasis on high quality code, so good unit test coverage, good process automation, and then in production we develop it further with a build, measure, learn cycle. So we more or less developed ourselves towards a bottom-up mentality, and we still, as much as we can, try to empower our teams to be self-driven, yeah? So to be autonomous in our organization. So I would say that we very much did our homework. So we nowadays living this mixed agile arts approach with OKR. We have this super team. We are very proud of this team and what they achieved. And we also switched from this service-based, from this monolithic approach to a service environment. Yeah, so we peeled down our onion to its core. What I mean is that we try to pull out functionality out of this monolith and encapsulate those kind of functionality in its own services. And those kind of services we can easily then deploy independently from the monolith, and this also speed very much up our whole development process. Nowadays, we have high quality standards, and we still have no quality assurance anymore. Yeah? So we had, after this project, we had quality assurance, and with this new project, we don't need actually anymore a dedicated quality guy. So the whole team is responsible for quality, and the whole team is also testing it. And then, of course, we have nowadays a high degree of process automation. We're living infrastructure as code, the continuous delivery model combined with the DevOps model. So our rocket is now launched for almost 1 year. and we are very happy with the infrastructure. We are very happy with the products that we created. And of course, we thought, well, what's next? And the main focus what we have nowadays is now more shifting to the journalism again, because we had so much work to do on the product side, creating new products, new infrastructures, that we now want to investigate more into the journalism. So we came up with a new mantra, and our new mantra is tech empowers journalism. And by this, we mean that we want to create the best journalistic tools and products by connecting journalism with technology. And so one vehicle towards this idea is that we investigating again more into our CMS infrastructure. So we want to create, we're shifting more and more to a SaaS model and a cloud-based headless CMS. So we are using here from CCI a vendor system, and they also trying to create a managed CMS infrastructure. So it's a very lean and clean and, surface, but the most interesting part for us is that we have a high degree of extensibility. So in the editorial space, it's always the truth is that there are so many third-party tools around, and it's very hard to integrate those kind of tools in classical CMS infrastructures. So we are now able to integrate more and more of these third-party tools, but at the same time, we are creating nowadays more and more services. So we created a service for auto-tagging, for interactive charts, content curation, A/B testing, embed services, and there are many more that are rising. Another team of us, what is also very, very interesting, is called Loyalty, and this team has the mission to transform users into loyal fans. So you remember the traffic growth, what I showed you before. So here are the numbers on the unique user level. So we nearly doubled in 2 years the number of unique users from 10 million to 20 million unique users. And the interesting part is that Spiegel Online, our biggest competitor in the market, they have the same amount of unique users, but they have the double amount of traffic. And this means that they have twice as loyal users that we have. And that's why we said we have to investigate into the loyalty of our brand, and that people become addicted to our brand and come back. And that's why we came up with a funnel structure, and in this funnel structure we have a reach, engagement, loyalty, sales, and upselling funnel. And the main idea is now or what we're currently already doing is, we have different kind of user segments, and on all these different kind of user segments, this team is creating different kind of features, always with a focus to transform a user more and more to the next level. And so, for instance, on the engagement funnel, we have different kind of community features, like the commenting function, chats, quizzes, and so on. And then in the loyalty funnel, we are very much focused on registrations, so registering for newsletters and so on. And then at the final point, when we know that it is a loyal customer or a loyal user, we want to transform him, of course, also to a customer, and we push him to our different kind of subscription products, or also to our different kind of e-commerce products, so travel and wine, selling wine, cigars, whatever our users need. All right, and in this space, we also developed a lot of different kind of services, but we also investigated a lot in different kind of new technologies. So we invested a lot into business intelligence, machine learning, personalization, and of course into this domain cluster of community management. So a set of different kind of service around community management. So we more and more recognize that we are nowadays very, very good in creating these infrastructures based on top of cloud. So on infrastructure, platform as a service, we can handle this very good. And we also recognized that software as a service is also it's also part of our DNA nowadays. And that's why it was always our dream that we also could share these services within our group. So at Axel Springer, we have a lot of different kind of content brands like Bild, Computerbild, Sportbild, Autobild, Gründerszene, Music Hammer, Music Express, Rolling Stone, Metal Hammer. So it's a huge variety, but we are all working in different kind of silos. And due software as a service, we see a better ability to share these kind of services within our group. And then in the third run, when these kind of services got a higher maturity level, then we also had the idea of monetizing these kind of services in an editorial software as a service market. So we also had already contact with AWS. They also have a service marketplace. We talked to our CMS vendor that wants to support us to create different kind of features that are natively integrated into their CMS. And basically, we wanted to find out if it could be a real business case for us. And that's why we went to the United States in August this year, and we met a lot of different kind of companies in the technological space, so tech companies, and the classical publishers. So from a technological perspective, it was very interesting for us to meet companies like Socialflow or Chartbeat, because those kind of companies are natural-born editorial software as a service companies. And for instance, Chartbeat, Chartbeat is a product that is nearly used in every newsroom in the world. And they're serving 700 customers with only 70 employees. So very interesting how they're doing also the operations for a worldwide customer base with such a small team. This was very impressive. And on the other hand, we met a lot of different kind of publishers because we wanted to find out, are they willingly to cooperate with us? Could they imagine to use these kind of services from us? And especially the Washington Post was very high on our priority list because, I don't know if you know it, but the Washington Post have been bought by Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos had also the idea the same idea to monetize the services that they created for the Washington Post and selling it to other publishers. So they are already a tech company nowadays, and it was very impressive to see how they evolved in time. So this is a picture what I took in 2015 when I visited the Washington Post the first time. And this was half a year after Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. And the interesting part was, back in the days, it was a very ordinary print publishing house. It was not so special. I was not impressed. And I even would say that we were ahead. But when I visited them in August this year, it blew up my mind. So nowadays, they switched into a new building. They are more or less sitting nowadays in an art gallery. And the brand and the products are everywhere in the building in a very classy way. And also the mission for journalism. It's very transparent and visible for everybody in the company. And it drives also the people in the company. People are nowadays at the Washington Post very much bound to the brand and the mission of journalism. And they also got a very, very digital mindset. So, and I'm not talking only about the product development department or something. So everybody had this digital mindset. It was sometimes like talking to people from AWS. It was kind of interesting. And of course, we asked them, how did they achieve that? And it's also very interesting when you look on the numbers. I mean, you could say, they have a new building and so on. But they were able to accelerate their traffic by 500%. They started with 30 to 35 million unique users, and nowadays they have 120 million unique users. And since they started with a subscription model, it's 1.5 years ago, they have nowadays 1 million digital subscribers, what is very impressive. And we asked them, so how did you achieve that? And they said, yeah, we invested a lot into our two core disciplines. But the one thing is journalism, and the other one is technology. So they hired an additional 120 journalists, and they doubled the amount of engineers. So they have nowadays a department of about 200 developers. And the other thing, what we learned from a lot of companies in the US is it's all about speed. Everything what they do is about speed. Yeah? The office space, the working procedures, everything is about speed. And I recognized that, I mean, I always thought we are fast. And when I look into the German and European market, we are fast, but they are just twice as fast as we. So I recognized that we have a team of about 30 engineers. And so I came back from the US and I told our CEO, and this is the last thing I want to share with you. I came back and I told her we have to invest more into IT because we don't have any more time to invest in innovative products. We are always focused on what's next, but not what is ahead. And she just said, just wait a little. And you can imagine this made me a little bit nervous. And 2 days later, we went wild. So what do I mean with we go wild? So Axel Springer announced that we will now merge the national content brands together to one super publisher. And there is a lot of potential because we have a lot of different kind of little IT organizations. And what we will now do is that we pull together all these different kind of IT departments, and that I think that also the models that we created for our companies with software as a service is a very, very interesting model in working together in a very synergetic way. So I think we are nowadays on a very good track, and so I would close it with, so stay tuned because our journey has really just begun. Thank you.